Shang-Chi is forced to confront the past he thought he left behind as he is brought back into the web of the Ten Rings. Shang-Chi is a movie I have been really excited for. An Asian fantasy martial arts movie set in the MCU sounded like a stroke of genius, and I was really excited to see what this movie could bring to the table. I was really hoping that despite it being in the MCU, it would still be a great film that doesn't feel burdened by the need to set up future films. Thankfully, that is exactly what Shang-Chi is. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is one of the best films Marvel have released in years. The Captain America films, particularly The Winter Soldier and Civil War, feature some of the best hand-to-hand combat sequences in the MCU, and some of the best action in general. Shang-Chi adopts a similar approach to its action, focusing more on hand-to-hand combat. Shang-Chi's action is the best action I've seen in a comic book movie since The Winter Soldier, and probably the most fun I've had watching a Marvel movie since Infinity War. The choreography is masterful. The fights are so fast, yet the choreography is so seamless that you forget you're watching a fight that was staged for the screen. At times, the fighters look like they're dancing, and it is breathtaking. It also features some of the best wire work I think I've ever seen. Even when the characters jump to logically impossible heights, it still feels like a real jump. You barely notice the wire work. The characters do things in these fight scenes that logically shouldn't be possible, but the movie does a great job at making you think those things are possible. The stunt team for this movie did an incredible job. They deserve high praise for their work on this movie. You can tell that everyone who had anything to do with the stunts, the choreography, and the action really knew what they were doing. Director Destin Daniel Cretton made a very wise choice to film much of the action sequences in wides. The wide shots of people just kicking ass are gorgeous. The camera work is so swift in its movement, and the editing conveys the intensity of these action scenes beautifully. Naturally, with Marvel movies, there are action sequences and certain visuals that require extensive visual effects work. Even the action sequences that were heavily CGI were freaking awesome. This movie's visuals are honestly stunning. Sure, there are shots where you can tell that much of the background is CG, but it's good CG, not the kind that would take you out of the experience. Visually, this movie is just stunning. The color choices, set design, costumes, and even the creature designs are just gorgeous, which really helps the film to stick out amongst Marvel's roster. I can see some people criticizing this movie for including elements that are typically associated with Marvel's formula, like big CG battles and comedy, but my retort to that would be that it still feels new and different from your typical Marvel movie. It feels like a Marvel movie that is brought to life from a unique perspective that adds a new layer to what could otherwise have become a fairly generic blockbuster. The story also goes in a direction that I personally didn't see coming, and there are certain things that are revealed that make the story this movie is trying to tell feel like something we haven't seen before from Marvel, while still making it thoroughly engaging and enjoyable. I found the mythology behind a lot of the aspects of Chinese culture that this movie explored to be utterly fascinating, and they integrated it into the story in a meaningful way that drove the story forward without decreasing its cultural significance. This is also one of the funniest Marvel movies I think I've ever seen. Most of the jokes got quite a chuckle out of me, and some of them, especially towards the middle of the film, legitimately had me pissing myself with laughter. There was a particular scene that had the entire audience in stitches, and I was on the edge of my seat with the biggest psychotic grin. Simu Liu? Holy shit, this guy is incredible. He is an absolute revelation. I almost cannot put into words how amazing he is in this movie. Shang-Chi as a lead character is such a compelling protagonist, and you really feel for him when he is forced to make a really tough decision, which he has to do a lot. Through this character, the film explores the idea of someone having to lead two lives in a very unexpected way that was captivating. The relationship that Shang-Chi had with his father, the real Mandarin this time, is the strongest element of this movie by far. Anytime those two were in a scene together, I had chills. Speaking of the Mandarin, Tony Leung is phenomenal in this movie. Like the best Marvel villains, he's a character that you feel sorry for, and the reasons the movie gives you to feel sympathy for this character make sense, but are also super interesting. Although this guy's on-screen presence is enough to make your goosebumps explode. He is absolutely terrifying, and I'm not just talking about the powers this guy has, which are a marvel. They're a marvel in of itself. There's a dinner scene where this guy is delivering a monologue, and even though what he is saying at first glance doesn't sound threatening, his delivery carries that threat, and it was almost haunting. Awkwafina was hilarious in this movie. She provides much of the film's comic relief, and she's a joy on screen. A lot of her jokes hit, and her character actually had a really cool arc. She wasn't just a comic relief character that's just there to be funny with no other purpose. She actually had her own personal journey in the film, which was awesome. If I have an opportunity to see any of these characters on screen again, I'm taking it in less than a heartbeat. I personally have nothing to complain about with this movie. This is easily the most fun I've had watching a Marvel movie since Infinity War, and I think it's the best Marvel solo movie since Captain America the Winter Soldier. I cannot wait to see what Marvel do with these characters, and I'm itching to see them again. I want to see this movie again so badly. I gotta tell you, it's rare that I feel this way about a blockbuster after I've seen it. So when I've seen one that is such a blast of a film that the idea of seeing it again actually excites me, I know I've seen something not just good or satisfyingly enjoyable, but fantastic. I'm gonna look like the biggest geek doing this, but I don't care. I loved every bit of this movie. 10 out of 10. So that was my review of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Thank you so much as always for watching. I do hope you enjoyed it. Before I go though, I would just like to ask you guys, what did you think of Shang-Chi? Did you think it was good? Did you think it was bad? Did you think it was somewhere in the middle? Please leave your thoughts down in the comments below, and I will indeed see you guys in the next one. Until next time, live long and prosper, and may the Force be with you always.